All right there, everyone. The nation of Turkey is threatening the continent of Europe with a flood of migrants that, according to Turkey, would bring down every national government within 6 months. That's what we'll be talking about on today's video. But first, a huge welcome to all of you, especially our first-time viewers. I post 2 videos a day analyzing current events, analyze some really awesome conservative trends so that you can live your values, impact lives, and change the world. So if you would, please smack that bell and subscribe button. It'd be an absolute privilege to have you as a regular part of this channel and our online community. All right, the Gatestone Institute is reporting on how the rhetoric has been heating up between Turkey and Europe of late. At issue is Europe's refusal to grant Turkey's demand for visa-free travel throughout the European Union member states by Turkish citizens. The European Union has agreed to visa liberalization for Turkey back in 2016, and as part of that deal, Turkey was supposed to stem the flow of migrants into Europe. Much of the Middle Eastern migration from places like Syria and Iraq and Afghanistan, they go through Turkey on their way to Europe. And if you can believe it, the EU actually did try to at least stop to some extent the flow, at least limit it, in response to the uprising of the nationalist populist parties and politicians who were ready to take on the EU. But according to EU officials, Turkey has yet to fully comply with the requirements for visa liberalization, and so they refused to grant it. And so the Turkish foreign minister, one of the key cabinet members of President Erdogan's administration, he actually came out the other day and threatened Europe by saying that as of now, Turkey is officially backing out of the migrant deal because the EU had failed to honor its pledge to grant Turkish passport holders visa-free access to Europe. And he actually threatened Europe by saying that Turkey, as we speak, Turkey is facing the biggest wave of migration in history. And if Turkey opens the floodgates, if they allow these migrants to pass through Turkey into Europe, this official said no European government will be able to survive for more than 6 months. No European government will escape the onslaught of Middle Eastern migration. And so he finished the warning by saying, we advise Europe not to try our patience. Now, of course, the ultimate goal here for Turkey is EU membership. If Turkey were to become part of the EU, it would immediately become the single largest nation in terms of population total within the European Union, far surpassing and thus replacing Germany as the current single largest nation. That would, of course, mean that the EU's largest member state would be Muslim, with free travel throughout the continent for all of its citizens. And so this talk by the Turkish foreign minister, this warning that if they open up their gates, as it were, not a single European nation would survive within 6 months, that kind of talk has reignited rather legitimate fears that Turkey's EU membership is not the ultimate goal, but rather a penultimate goal. EU membership is a means to something even more coveted, and that would be the Islamization of Europe, which has already been happening, of course, at unprecedented levels in places like France and Sweden, to a certain extent Great Britain with Pakistani immigration. Now, obviously, these threats are not helping Turkey. Already, the major areas of migration entry into Europe are becoming more like fortresses than anything else. I'm thinking most especially like Bulgaria, which borders Turkey. In November 2016, just a week after Donald Trump was elected president of the United States, Bulgaria elected their own nationalist populist as president of their nation. And then in March of 2017, you had the conservative rightist Gerb party, that's GERB, which are initials that stand for coat of arms. That conservative party won their national elections along with a coalition of so-called far-right, radical right parties that formed an alliance called the United Patriots. And so Bulgaria has since been ruled by a nationalist right coalition. And of course, the United Patriots in particular, they're staunchly anti-migrant. They're very anti-Turkish, very pro-nationalist, pro-populist, pro-Bulgarian traditionalists. And so Bulgaria has been actively engaged in border security over the last couple of years. The new conservative majority in Greece, which won their snap elections in a landslide just a few weeks back, they've recently announced their intentions to resecure their borders in response to an uptick in the number of refugees crossing in from Turkey. They're making plans to boost border forces, reinforce Coast Guard patrols with upgraded equipment, and speed up the asylum process for migrants and restart deportations, particularly to neighboring Turkey. Again, this is in response to the uptick in migration for Turkey, which has thus far exceeded 12,000 since the start of the year. And the government in Greece said that it was committed to deporting those who simply don't belong in Greece as quickly, as fast as possible. Of course, you have Matteo Salvini's Italy reducing its migration intake by over 90% in just the last year. They've gone from a high of 180,000 migrants back in 2016 to this year, barely 3,000. Viktor Orban has secured the borders of Hungary. Law and Justice Party has secured the borders of Poland. The Czech Republic, Slovakia have been doing the same. Austria as well, Slovenia. Most of Eastern and Central Europe is pretty well fortified at this point. So if the floodgates were to be opened, as it were, by Turkey, it would affect mostly Western European states, which have thus far been most sympathetic to the culture-crushing dynamics of globalization. And to be honest, it's rhetoric like this coming from Turkey's foreign minister that's the best possible thing that can happen to the nationalist populist right in Western Europe. If ever we needed a reminder of why the nationalist populist right has risen to such prominence, of why the nationalist populist right has become such a major factor in European politics, I mean, here it is. You have a Turkish official threatening Europe with a massive migration invasion. And that threat is real. That threat we take very seriously precisely because of the globalist policies of open borders that have dominated European politics over the last few decades. Globalism hates borders, okay, by definition. In order for a system to be politically and economically globalist, it can't run into walls. It can't have boundaries, right? So porous boundaries, open borders, they're all hallmarks of globalist societies. And Europe, particularly Western Europe, has dedicated itself to just such a globalist vision, all in the name of destroying the demons of nationalism that ravaged Europe in 2 world wars, even though, as it actually turns out, those demons were not nationalists, they were imperialists, just like globalism. Right? Globalism ends up becoming precisely the kind of totalitarian cultural imperialist system that almost destroyed Europe in the 20th century. Instead, this time it looks like it'll be the result of a massive Islamic invasion, all in the name of human rights and migration rights. Again, these so-called rights will do to Europe what bombs never could. And so here with this warning, we have a great reminder of precisely why the nationalist populist right is doing so well in European politics and why we can expect them to gain even more popularity in the months and the years ahead. As always, please like, comment, and subscribe. Check out some of our awesome coffee mugs and t-shirts to celebrate all things nationalist, populist, and traditionalist that you're absolutely going to love. And please click on either our Patreon Subscribe Star or PayPal links below and consider becoming a monthly or one-time supporter of this channel and help us to continue to analyze current events in light of super awesome conservative trends so you can live in the present light of even better things to come. God bless.